Hey there, Salina here, and this video is going to be on tips for traveling with a baby. So these tips are going to be for traveling by car and traveling by plane, though I think my plane tips will probably be a bit more helpful than the car tips, but these are the tips that I have for you. So the first tip is plan for stops. So when you have a baby, you're gonna have to stop more often than what you would without a baby. So our trip from Washington to Ohio, I planned to stop every 4 hours, and it was a 3-day trip. But then I was like, wait a minute, we have a baby. We're gonna have to stop every 2 hours, and it turned from a 3-day trip to a 4-day trip. So it is important to plan for those extra stops because it may end up taking an extra day or an extra few hours or something like that to get to where you're going, and you do want to make sure that there is like some time in between, like when you actually need to be there and when you're going to get there, because like he had an appointment a few days later, so I didn't want to get there the same day as his appointment or even a day before, so that I had time to rest. The next tip is bring lots of snacks and toys. Especially if your trip is going to be really long, you want to make sure that your kid is entertained. So we brought like a whole bunch of his smaller toys that could fit in a little bag, and then we also had the tablet that had movies on it that he liked to watch, and then we had little snacks and stuff for him to eat. But one thing that is important to say, it really isn't safe to feed your kid in a car seat, because if they choke, you may not be able to get them out the car seat fast enough, and then of course the car is moving. So I mean, if you do or don't, that is entirely your choice. I can honestly say that I did. That wasn't my choice, but I'm just letting you guys know that it is not the safest thing to do if you do choose to do it. Give baby a break from their car seat, just like you need to get up and stretch when you're in the car for a very long time. The baby is going to need to too, so even if you're only stopping for a few minutes, it may be a hassle to let them out the car seat. But just like you need a stretch, they need a stretch too, and they need a break from the car seat. So make sure that you give them a break. And another tip that I was going to say is the last tip for in a car is, don't be afraid to try something that didn't work before or doesn't work while you're at home. It may work in the car. My son stopped taking pacifiers at 3 months. He would just chew on them. He wouldn't suck on them anymore. And I just brought one just in case, and in the ride sometimes when he would get fussy, I gave him a pacifier and he was fine, but it worked then. So don't be afraid to try something that doesn't normally work at home. So the next 3 tips are going to be tips for when you're in the plane. So my number 1 tip would be, if you have a kid, try to get an aisle seat or a window seat. A window seat may be better because you can control whether or not the blind is up if your child does want to take a nap, so you can control, how much light is coming in and all that stuff. And then there's also, if you have a more active child, they may try to touch the people around them, and if you're in the middle, it's going to be hard to keep them from touching people because they may be touching someone over here and you move them away, and then they're trying to touch this person over here, and you only have so much space on the plane, so you want to be able to, you don't want to disturb your neighbors. And then there's also, if you are breastfeeding and if you're uncomfortable, especially since you're in like close quarters, you may be more comfortable breastfeeding in a window seat. That was kind of me. Like, if I have to breastfeed in public, I will, but I wouldn't want to be like in the middle or in the aisle where a whole bunch of people could see me. So I asked for the window seat, and I was able to get the window seat and breastfeed my son comfortably. If you don't have a window seat, you can always ask the person who has the window seat if you can have that seat. If they see that you have a child, they may be nice enough to let you have the seat. In both plane rides that I was on, the person that had the window seat let me have the window seat, so I was really thankful for that. My next tip is baby wear. Now, some people will say take a stroller. Baby wearing worked for me. I was by myself, so when I was leaving the airport, I was by myself. And I had him on my front. I had a book bag on my back. I had his car seat in one hand and the suitcase in the other hand. And I wouldn't have been able to push a stroller. So baby wearing was what worked for me because I was by myself. Maybe if you have someone with you or something like that, then having a stroller will work for you. Or if you have a bad back or your kid is just a little bit too heavy for baby wearing, then a stroller can work for you. But baby wearing is what worked for me. So he woke up. Back to the tips. So if you do baby wear and you wear a jacket, or either don't wear a jacket or make sure that you wear the jacket on the outside of the carrier. Somebody told me that and I completely forgot. I ended up having to undo the carrier to take the jacket off while still holding him on top of all this extra stuff that I had, and then putting the carrier back on just to take off my jacket. But they did let me baby wear him through the metal detector, so that was good. That wasn't an issue when it came to baby wearing. And an extra tip that I just thought about, slip-on shoes are a must whether you baby wear or not. Last thing that you want to have to do is worry about retying your shoes and all that extra stuff. You can just slip the shoes on and slip them off really quickly. So if you are going to be riding on a plane, slip on shoes. If you can, make sure that you have extra time in between your flights, and also when you get to the plane and when you get off the plane. You never know what could happen with a baby, especially with like dirty diapers and stuff like that. My flights were actually really close together, but my first one was late, and then my second one was actually ended up being delayed by an hour and 30 minutes, which was actually really good because as my first flight was landing, he pooped. And if the rides were back to back, I would have had to change him on the second flight in the tiny little airplane bathrooms. But because that one was delayed, I was actually able to change him in the airport bathroom on a changing table. So if you can, try to make sure that you have extra time just in case there is some kind of mishap like that or something. And instead of carrying a diaper bag, carry a book bag. It will keep your hands and your arms free, so it's on your back and you can do whatever with your hands. You don't have to worry about having something here in your way or whatever. A book bag is like perfect. I honestly feel like I can fit more in a book bag than what I could in his diaper bag. They're about the same size, but I think it's just the way that they're shaped that helps me to be able to fit more stuff in the book bag than to be able to fit a lot of stuff in the diaper bag. For plane rides, this one is probably that you've heard like a lot, but feed baby on takeoff. And I know I wanted to be really specific, like what do you guys mean by takeoff? Do you mean like when we get on the plane, when the plane starts to taxi to the runway, when the plane starts to go down the runway, when the wheels start to come off the ground, when we're in the air? Like when exactly do I feed the baby? But it would be as the wheels start to leave the ground and you start to go up, and also on landing as you're starting to descend. If you are needing to, then those would be the best time to feed your baby. I didn't have to do that with him, thankfully. The first plane ride on takeoff, he fell asleep without me feeding him. And on departure, he was wide awake, no problem. And on the second plane ride, I fed him before and he fell asleep. And then on landing, he was also fine. But if your baby does get fussy, then the best time to feed them would be like as the plane is changing altitude, because what it is the babies can't pop their ears. So if that is bothering them, then that is when you need to feed them, and that would be on like as the plane is changing altitude. So. And my last tip is do not stress. I was stressing out like before our plane ride and our car ride. I did not know how he was gonna be. It was 2 separate plane rides and then a trip cross country. I was so worried. I thought he was gonna be fussy and be horrible, but he always surpasses my expectations. So I really usually have no reason to stress, but sometimes it doesn't always go well. But stressing isn't going to help the situation any. So it's really important that you don't stress and you stay calm and you relax for you and your baby, because like I said, stressing is not going to help the situation. Enjoy your time with your baby traveling. It is an experience for you. It is an experience for them. And that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. New video every Sunday and every Wednesday. And until next time, deuces. You really